You know, in a world where it's easier to point fingers than to take charge, there's something incredibly powerful about people who choose a different path, the path of builders, the path of winners. See, blaming is easy, it's instant, it's comfortable, and it lets you off the hook. But building, that takes courage, that takes vision, and most of all, that takes ownership. I've learned through every rejection, every heartbreak, every moment where the odds were stacked against me, that winners don't waste energy blaming the world. They rise, they adapt, they create, they build, one brick at a time, not for applause but for purpose. This isn't about being perfect, it's about being relentless. When life tries to break you down, winners don't whine, they work. They don't ask why me, they ask what now. They don't just dream, they build their dream even when no one else sees it. So today, let's talk about what sets winners apart. Let's uncover the mindset that refuses to settle, the spirit that keeps showing up, and the discipline that turns struggle into strength. Because in the end, winners aren't born. They're built. Winners take radical responsibility for their lives. They don't sit back and wait for someone to rescue them, and they don't waste time pointing fingers. They own their story, the good, the bad, the messy, and everything in between. And that ownership, that's the birthplace of power. Because when you stop blaming the world for where you are, you start realizing just how much control you actually have. It's not about denying that life is hard or unfair. We all face pain, rejection, betrayal, and moments when it feels like the universe is working against us. But winners don't let those moments define them. They feel it, they acknowledge it, and then they take charge of what comes next. Radical responsibility means you stop giving your energy to things you can't control and start investing it into what you can. It's easy to say, my parents didn't support me, or no one gave me a chance, or the system is broken. And honestly, those might be true, but the truth doesn't always set you free. Action does. The people who win in life aren't necessarily the ones who had it easy. They're the ones who refuse to let their circumstances be the final chapter. When you take radical responsibility, you stop living in reaction mode. You become intentional. You start asking different questions. Instead of why is this happening to me, you ask, what can I learn from this? How can I grow? What's the next move I can make today to get closer to the life I want? That shift in mindset may seem small, but it's faltering. Because blame traps you in the past. Responsibility empowers your future. I've met people who have gone through hell, abuse, loss, poverty, heartbreak, and still came out standing taller than ever. Not because someone handed them a perfect life, but because they decided that no one else would write their story for them. They became the authors. They chose to rise instead of resent. They stopped waiting for perfect conditions, and they started creating progress out of chaos. Taking responsibility isn't always glamorous. It means admitting your mistakes. It means being brutally honest with yourself. It means cutting the excuses, even when you have every reason to hold on to them. But that's where transformation lives. That's where confidence grows. Because when you know you're the one driving the car, you stop being afraid of where the road leads. You realize you can change lanes, take a new direction, or even build a whole new road if you have to. And let's be clear, it doesn't mean you won't fall. Winners fall, a lot. But what separates them is their refusal to stay down. They take the hit, learn the lesson, and rise up wiser. They don't waste energy blaming the storm. They become stronger so they can stand in it. That's the kind of responsibility that reshapes your future. Taking control of your life doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you're willing to show up for yourself every single day. It means you're willing to do the work even when no one is watching. It means you're ready to stop outsourcing your power to your past, your parents, your ex, your boss, your pain, your trauma, and instead reclaim it piece by piece with every choice you make. Winners don't waste time blaming. They're too busy building strength, building mindset, building habits, building a life they can be proud of. They know they're not victims of circumstance, they're architects of change. And if something's not working, they don't complain. They rebuild. That's not just responsibility, that's liberation. So if you want to win, start here. Own everything, your pain, your passion, your choices. Your future. Take responsibility so deeply that nothing and no one can stop your rise. Because when you take full ownership of your life, you become unstoppable. That's what winners do. They turn pain into power and obstacles into opportunities. That's what separates winners from everyone else. It's not that their lives are easier or their paths are smoother. In fact, many of the strongest people you'll ever meet are the ones who have walked through the fire and refused to let it consume them. Pain can either paralyze you or propel you. Winners choose the latter. They don't deny their pain. They face it head on. They let it teach them, shape them, strengthen them. They use it as fuel, not an excuse. Life will test you. That's not a question. It's a guarantee. You'll lose people you love. You'll fail at things you thought you'd master. You'll be overlooked, underestimated, and sometimes betrayed by the very people you trusted. And in those moments you have a choice. You can drown in the hurt or rise from it. Winners rise, not because they're fearless, but because they're done letting fear define them. Pain has a strange way of revealing what you're made of. It strips away the fluff, it humbles you, it challenges your identity, but it also builds resilience. Every scar tells a story, and winners wear those scars with pride, not for sympathy, but as reminders that they made it through. They didn't fold, they didn't quit, they turned their breakdowns into breakthroughs. Winners don't just survive pain, they transform it. They take heartbreak and turn it into purpose. They take failure and turn it into fuel. They take every no they've ever heard and use it as motivation to create their own yes. They understand that obstacles are not roadblocks, they are redirections, detours that lead to something deeper, something better. That's the mindset that sets them apart. Some of the most powerful success stories were born out of rejection. Some of the most iconic wins were built on the back of devastating losses. But winners don't romanticize the pain. They respect it. They know it wasn't easy. They know it almost broke them. But instead of blaming the world, they chose to build strength from the wreckage. They train their minds to see beyond the setback. They develop emotional endurance. They learn how to bend without breaking. And most importantly, they keep moving forward, even when it hurts, because they know that staying stuck in pain only creates more pain, but transforming pain. That creates progress, purpose, and eventually power. Obstacles are not the enemy. They're the training ground. Winners know that you don't become strong by avoiding the hard stuff. You become strong by walking through it. Every challenge is a chance to build character. Every failure is feedback. Every delay is preparation. They stop seeing problems as punishment and start seeing them as preparation. And let's be real, it's not always pretty. Growth is messy. Healing takes time, but winners aren't chasing perfection. They're chasing progress, and progress comes from struggle. It comes from standing back up after life knocks you down. It comes from saying, "This won't break me. It will build me." Winners are masters at reframing. They ask different questions. Instead of saying, "Why did this happen to me?" they say, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of saying, "This ruined me," they say, "This refined me." That mental shift alone changes the game. It turns victims into victors. It turns fear into focus. We all face pain. We all face obstacles. The difference lies in what we do with them. Winners don't run from the struggle. They embrace it, learn from it, and use it as raw material for their success. They build beauty from brokenness. They build strength from suffering. They don't let pain make them bitter. They let it make them better. That's how they keep rising. Not because they had it easy, but because they learned how to turn every wound into wisdom, every setback into strategy, every challenge into change. And that's the kind of power no one can take away, because it wasn't given. It was built brick by brick, from pain, from failure, from struggle. That's how winners are made. They focus on solutions, not excuses. That's a trait that every true winner shares. They don't dwell on why something went wrong or who's to blame. They don't sit in circles of self-pity, listing all the reasons they can't succeed. Instead, they shift their energy toward what can be done, what's possible, and how they can move forward. Winners understand that problems are inevitable, but excuses are optional. And in a world full of people pointing out what's wrong, They stand out by being the ones who figure out how to fix it. It's easy to make excuses. It's easy to say you're too tired, too busy, too inexperienced, or that the timing isn't right. Excuses are comfortable. They give you a reason to stay exactly where you are. But winners aren't interested in comfort. They're interested in growth. They're not scared to step out of the familiar and into the challenge. When something doesn't go their way, their first instinct isn't to complain, it's to adjust, adapt, and act. That's what makes them unstoppable. When life throws obstacles at them, winners don't spend hours talking about how unfair it is. They spend their time looking for the next move. They understand that time is precious, and every minute spent complaining is a minute stolen from progress. That doesn't mean they're unrealistic or overly positive. They see the problem, they acknowledge the weight of it, and then they get to work. They ask, what's the next best step I can take right now? And they take it, imperfectly if they have to, but they take it. That kind of mindset takes training. It takes self-awareness. You have to be honest with yourself about the excuses you've been making, because we all make them. The difference is, winners catch themselves. They don't allow a temporary setback to become a permanent identity. They don't let fear masquerade as logic. They challenge their own patterns, question their own doubts, and choose to act even when it's uncomfortable. Excuses often come disguised as logic. They sound like, I don't have enough time, or I'm not ready, or what if I fail? But winners see through that. They know that time can be made, readiness is built through action, and failure is part of the process. They don't wait for ideal conditions. They create progress with whatever they have, wherever they are. That's the edge that keeps them ahead. Winners also understand that focusing on solutions doesn't mean ignoring the problem. It means refusing to be defined by it. It means choosing to become a problem solver instead of a problem dweller. They take ownership of their role in the situation, and they ask, what can I control here? And once they find that answer, they pour their energy into it. They are resourceful. If one door closes, they'll find another. If no doors are open, they'll build their own. They don't need everything to be perfect. They just need a reason to begin. And that reason is always bigger than their excuses. That's how they keep moving. That's how they keep winning. What most people call problems, winners call puzzles. They look at life like a strategist, not a victim. They enjoy the challenge of figuring things out. And every time they do, they gain more confidence, more clarity, more momentum. That's what happens when your mindset is built on solutions. People who live on excuses stay stuck. People who live on solutions move forward, even if it's inch by inch. And that forward motion adds up. That's the secret winners know. They don't need giant leaps every day. They just need consistent, intentional steps in the right direction, because momentum beats perfection every time. So if you want to live like a winner, start catching your excuses, start questioning them, and then redirect your energy toward the solution, no matter how small it may seem, because when your focus shifts, your life shifts. And that's the difference between those who stay behind and those who rise ahead. Winners rise because they refuse to stay stuck. They refuse to settle. And above all, they refuse to make excuses when they know they were built for more. They build themselves daily through discipline and self-belief. That's not something that happens once in a while. It's a lifestyle. Winners understand that greatness isn't built in a moment of motivation. It's built in the small, consistent actions that no one sees. It's in the early mornings when it's easier to sleep in the long nights when everyone else has called it a day, and in the quiet moments where choices are made, not for applause, but for alignment. Discipline is the foundation, and self-belief is the fuel. Together, they become a force that's almost impossible to stop. Every winner you admire didn't get there just because they were talented. Talent might open the door, but it's discipline that keeps you in the room. It's waking up and doing the work even when you don't feel like it. It's showing up when you're tired, when you're doubting, when you're frustrated. It's doing what needs to be done because you've made a decision, not because you're in the mood. Winners treat discipline like a muscle. They train it, they respect it, and they never let it go weak. But discipline alone isn't enough. You need belief, not blind arrogance, but unshakable self-trust. That deep, quiet voice that says, I can do this, even when the world is saying otherwise. Self-belief is what carries you through the storms. It's what keeps you standing when you feel invisible, when results are slow, when progress feels like it's nowhere in sight. Winners believe in their vision long before it becomes visible. They back themselves when no one else does, and that belief becomes a magnet. It attracts opportunities, it ignites persistence, and it silences doubt. The truth is, you don't wake up disciplined or confident. You build it daily, through your choices, your habits, your words. You build it when you stop breaking promises to yourself, when you say, I'm going to do this, and then actually do it again and again until your mind knows you mean business. That's how self-trust grows. That's how belief gets rooted deep inside you. And once it's there, once it's part of your identity, it becomes unshakable. Winners don't wait for motivation to strike. They create systems. They build routines that align with their goals. They remove distractions, set boundaries, and hold themselves accountable, not out of punishment, but out of purpose. Because they know the life they want won't be built through wishful thinking. It will be built through committed action. They also surround themselves with structure, not chaos. They understand the power of focus. They protect their time, their energy, their space, because they know those things are sacred. They say no to what doesn't serve their growth, not because they're selfish, but because they're serious. Serious about who they're becoming, serious about what they're building. Discipline isn't glamorous, it's not flashy, but it delivers. It's what allows winners to show up consistently, even when the results are delayed. And when you pair that with deep belief in yourself, something powerful happens. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop asking for permission. You stop needing external approval because you know who you are and you trust what you're building, even if no one else sees it yet. Winners don't live in fantasy. They live in practice. They rehearse success before it's real. They prepare for the opportunities before they show up. They train like it already belongs to them. That kind of mindset doesn't come from luck. It comes from daily, deliberate action. Every step taken in discipline is a message to your future. I'm coming for you. Every time you choose growth over comfort, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. And the more you vote, the stronger that identity becomes. The more you believe, the more you build. So if you want to be a winner, don't wait for a perfect day. Don't wait to feel ready. Start now. Build now. Believe now. Show up even when it's hard. Do the work even when it's silent. Trust that every small step, every disciplined choice, every quiet act of belief, it's all stacking up. And one day it will all make sense. Because winners aren't built by chance. They're built by discipline. And they rise on the back of belief. They don't wait for validation. They create their own path. That's one of the most powerful qualities of a true winner. They aren't sitting around hoping someone will notice them, clap for them, approve of them, or open a door for them. They've learned that waiting for permission is the fastest way to stay stuck. Instead, they forge ahead. They decide who they are, what they want, and where they're going. And then they walk that path with conviction, even if they have to walk it alone. That kind of confidence doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment, from knowing deep within that your journey matters, even if no one else gets it yet. Winners don't chase trends, they set them. They don't try to fit into a mold, they break it. They understand that if you try to please everyone, you'll lose yourself, and once you lose yourself, it's almost impossible to build anything that lasts, so they stop trying to be liked and start focusing on being real. They speak from the heart, move with purpose, and trust their instincts. They've learned that validation is fragile, but self-worth is unshakable when it comes from within. Creating your own path isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it means being misunderstood. Sometimes it means being judged, and sometimes it means failing in front of others who don't believe in you. But winners aren't building their lives based on opinions. They're building based on vision, and when you have a vision that speaks to your soul, you stop needing outside approval. You stop asking, do they think I'm good enough? And you start declaring, I know I'm meant for more. That doesn't mean they're arrogant, it means they're committed. Committed to their purpose, committed to their process. They know that the people who once laughed will later ask how they did it. They are not focused on instant recognition. They are focused on long-term impact. And that takes courage. It takes resilience to keep showing up when the crowd is silent. But that silence doesn't shake them. It strengthens them, because winners don't rely on cheers. They rely on character. So many people stay small because they're waiting to be noticed. They have dreams, but they're frozen by fear, fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of looking foolish. But winners walk anyway. They start the business without waiting for approval. They share their ideas without asking for applause. They build their brand, speak their truth, and chase their goals, even when no one else sees the vision, because they've decided to believe in themselves more than they believe in fear. The truth is, no one owes you recognition. No one is coming to save you or hand you your dream, and winners don't wait for that. They build it from the ground up. They trust that if they stay consistent, if they stay authentic, if they stay grounded in purpose, the results will speak louder than any outside validation ever could. They know that true fulfillment comes from creating something real, not from collecting likes or chasing approval. They've also learned to enjoy the process. They understand that the journey itself is what transforms them. Every step they take on their own terms builds more clarity, more strength, and more confidence. And eventually that quiet confidence becomes louder than any applause, because they're not performing for attention. They're living in alignment with who they truly are. If you want to live like a winner, stop looking around and start looking within. Your path doesn't need to make sense to everyone. It just needs to make sense to you. The people who changed the world weren't the most approved. They were the most authentic. They were the ones who took the road less traveled, who trusted their own voice, and who didn't shrink just to be accepted. They chose courage over comfort, purpose over popularity. So don't wait for someone to say you're ready. You're ready when you decide to be. Don't wait for permission to dream bigger, speak louder, or rise higher. Winners don't wait for validation. They validate themselves through action, through grit, and through bold steps in the direction of their calling. Create your path, walk it fiercely, own it fully. That's how winners rise. They inspire through action, not by playing the victim. That's what separates true winners from the crowd. While others might spend their time talking about what happened to them, winners focus on showing what they're doing about it. They don't carry around a victim narrative looking for sympathy or attention. Instead, they carry responsibility, resilience, and results. Their story isn't about what broke them. It's about how they rose from it. And that rise, that visible climb, becomes the inspiration, not the pain, not the struggle, but the comeback. Winners know that pain is real, and so is injustice. They've lived through betrayal, loss, disappointment, and failure. But they've also learned that living in a victim mindset doesn't change anything. It doesn't create progress. It only creates patterns, patterns of staying small, patterns of blame, patterns of helplessness. So they choose a different route. They choose to lead by example. They show others what it means to take your life back, not by preaching, but by doing. In a world full of noise, winners let their actions do the talking. You don't see them broadcasting every struggle or demanding attention for every hardship. What you see is someone who keeps showing up, who keeps doing the work, who keeps building, creating, growing, and leading, even when things are tough behind the scenes. That silent strength is what makes them magnetic. It's not about perfection, it's about persistence. That's what inspires people. Anyone can talk about their dreams. Anyone can post a quote or say the right words. But winners back it up with motion, with energy, with movement. They know that people don't follow words. They follow courage. And the most courageous thing you can do is take action when life has given you every reason not to. That's what people respect. That's what wakes others up and makes them say, if they can do it, so can I. Playing the victim might get you attention, but it won't earn you respect, and winners are after something deeper than attention. They want impact. They want legacy. They want to live in such a way that their life becomes proof that anything is possible, and that proof doesn't come from complaining. It comes from commitment. Winners inspire because they've been through the fire and came out stronger. They don't hide the fact that it was hard. They just choose not to be defined by it. They've learned how to turn pain into purpose and setbacks into stepping stones. And when people see that, they don't just hear a message, they feel it. Because it's real, it's lived, it's earned, they know that the most powerful stories aren't always told with words. They're told with presence, with how you carry yourself, how you rise, how you keep going when it would have been easier to quit. Winners carry that kind of silent leadership. It's not loud, but it's undeniable. And here's the thing, everyone has a story, everyone has pain, but not everyone uses that pain to build something greater. Winners do. They use it as a platform, not a prison. They're not interested in reliving the past over and over again. They're too focused on building a better future, not just for themselves, but for everyone watching. Because they know someone is always watching, waiting to be inspired, waiting for proof that strength is possible, waiting for hope. So they don't waste time trying to convince anyone of their worth, they show it. In how they live, in how they lead, in how they bounce back. That's the inspiration, not the story of suffering, but the example of strength. If you want to inspire, don't wait for a perfect story. Just take the next step. Take action, show up, be consistent, be resilient. People won't always remember what happened to you, but they will remember how you responded to it. Your actions are your legacy. Your courage is your message. Winners don't sit in the ashes, they build from them, and in doing so, they give others the permission to do the same. Not by asking for pity, but by leading with power. That's how they inspire. That's how they leave a mark. Not by being victims, but by becoming the proof that rising is always possible. So, what truly sets winners apart, it's not their circumstances. It's not their luck, their background, or the number of followers they have. It's their mindset. It's the quiet decision they make every single day to rise instead of resent, to act instead of blame, to build instead of break. Winners don't live in excuses, they live in execution. They don't wait for validation. They validate themselves through action, through discipline, through belief, and through relentless pursuit of something greater. They take radical responsibility for their lives, not because it's easy, but because it's the only way to reclaim power. They transform pain into power and never allow obstacles to become permanent walls. When others focus on problems, they focus on solutions. While many wait for motivation, winners build discipline, and they do it daily. They stop seeking approval and start carving their own path. And they don't just talk about what happened to them. They show the world what they did about it. Every brick of a winner's life is laid with intention. Not one part of it is accidental. And while the world might not always understand their silence, their struggle, or their sacrifice, it will one day witness the impact of their persistence. Because true winners don't need to prove anything, they just keep moving forward. And in doing so, they become the proof. So if you're tired of waiting, tired of blaming, tired of holding back, then decide today to be the builder of your own life. Start small, start quietly, but start with everything you have. Because you don't need permission to rise. You don't need applause to begin. You don't need a crowd to validate your worth. You just need the courage to stop blaming and start building. And when you do, your life won't just change, it will inspire.